literally like 5 of the messy bun, and there was no amount of dry shampoo that was going to save it. Other than that, I am generally in a, as my sister calls it, a chicken fried situation where it is both greasy and powdery. So. Okay, so we are live on YouTube.
Awesome.
And then I'll be doing the sharing screen thing. Oh, so what I did with the deck, I've got the intro slide that's, hold on, I'll share my screen for that.
Just give me a second, 1 second, please.
Oh, take your time.
Oh, my window was open and there's a lot of sound coming in from outside. Okay, cool. Awesome.
All right, so we've got the presentation up there. There's like a quick housekeeping slide I'll go through once we get started here. An intro slide for you, then 2 slides about your company, about products by women. So you can just, I'll give your introduction, and then you can speak to, kind of introduce people to to your group and what you guys do and whatever.
Yeah.
Then I've got the 2 slides with the questions lists on them. I usually flash those for about 4 or 5 seconds each, in case people want to grab screenshots. People don't generally, I don't think, but we always offer it just in case.
Okay.
And then, let's see, the question about how do you prioritize and strategize your life, that's where I put your playbook slide, DILO slide, and then your toolkit.
Okay, perfect.
And then the next question is about balance between work and life. And so I put the expectation versus reality slide, and then the also remember slide there.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, we should be good. And then I'll keep track of time and everything. I'll keep us on track there. I'll also monitor the chat function. The only thing I won't have visibility on is if anybody messages you privately, but I don't expect you to monitor that during the chat or anything. Nothing like that. So don't worry about any of that. And yeah.
Okay.
We'll just proceed.
Awesome. I think we have like a few minutes, like 6 minutes.
Oh yeah, we've got 6 minutes. So if you need to go do something, or even if you just want to turn off your camera and not be visible for 6 minutes, that's fine. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm just trying to share it with people so that, they know where to come if they want to come. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And actually, here I can send you the link to the YouTube live stream too, in case people want to watch it there.
Oh gosh, that's like overwhelming, like for me too. Kind of, I'm on my phone and I'm just trying to send it out. Sorry. Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
No worries.
I'm gonna put my phone aside now. You guys are doing amazing branding. This is great.
You know what? I can't even take credit for this. Lauren set most of this kind of up when she started the Chat and Learn program, and Nicole does such a great job of building out these slide decks.
It's really clean and it's great.
Thank you. I like it too. I'm actually really excited because eventually within we had the summit, which kind of stole focus of a lot of stuff for a while. But within the next month or so, we're gonna for some of our Chat and Learns, we're gonna stop doing like a PowerPoint deck, and we're gonna move into using Prezi. So it'll be a lot more interactive.
That's nice. Oh wow, yeah, that's gonna be more interactive and a lot more engaging. So that's great.
I love it. It's one of those things that's like fascinating to kind of dig in on, and there's so much to learn with it. But it's gonna be cool for our Chat and Learn feature. It'll be nice.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you have big plans for the weekend?
Actually, I really don't. I am going to be probably working through the weekend, and that's how my life has been in the last few months. I was just talking to my husband earlier today, and I was like, I think I chose this life, so I'm going to embrace it. For the most part, I think I'm going to be dividing up my time between working and spending time with my toddler and trying to catch up on some sleep if possible, and some outdoor time if the weather permits.
Yes.
What about you?
Well, I was working weekends for the last month or so, leading up to our virtual summit. So
yeah,
not last month, I guess, because that was 3 weeks ago now. So there was a lot of long hours and weekends leading up to that. So I'm gonna take advantage a little bit of getting my weekends back.
Yeah.
I've also worked remotely for the last year and a half.
Okay.
And so like when we had the whole COVID thing and moved to, everybody was working remotely and working from home, not much changed in my daily life. So I was like, oh yeah, I can handle this, no problem, whatever. And it wasn't until like last week or the week before that I really had a kind of room to breathe and realized like I really miss getting out of the house and like actually doing something.
I know.
Which sounds so dumb because it's like I live in Ohio. Like it's not like I'm stuck in a city or we're on full lockdown or something. Like I have a small backyard, I have sidewalks, I live in a suburb, so like we can safely go outside as long as you're social distancing, whatever. So like I'm getting out like that, but I think I just kind of underestimated how valuable it was to me to like actually have activities to go do.
Yeah.
So yeah, the gym for sure is like hugely up there.
Has it opened up? Guys, like none of the gyms have opened up for us as yet.
Well, so the place I go is not technically a gym. It's like they're calling it, it's like a workout studio or something. It's it's boxing. It's a boxing gym. So we're already like, you don't touch your face at all because you have giant gloves on, and they are opening it at like a reduced capacity. Plus, like you have to get your get a temperature scan on the way in to make sure you don't have an elevated temperature and stuff like that. So between those measures, and then I also go to like the earliest class in the morning I can get to. Like I said, just to kind of go with as few people there as possible. So that helps, but I'm also pretty sure it's going to get shut down here again soon, just because you go to the grocery store and nobody's wearing a mask, and it's
we don't know how this is like a new reality. So I guess we just have to work around it.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I see there's more people joining us. You're welcome to come off mute and chat with us if you'd like. We've got about 2 minutes before we get started here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple months, because I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit more back and forth than people are kind of expecting. So,
yeah.
Hi, Caroline.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you today?
Good.
Namisha, how are your kids handling this?
My son
do you have one or two?
I have one.
Two, right? Oh, okay, I thought you had two, I'm sorry.
He's 2.5, and he doesn't know any better. I think this is his reality. So he's doing well, actually. It's kind of hard for, little kids because they don't have the, space to kind of run around, especially in New York.
Yeah.
But so far so good. We've been okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
Caroline, how's your week going?
Pretty well. I'm interning this summer from home, so it's not super exciting, and I feel kind of like it's hard to feel connected with the people that I'm working with, and I'm just trying to navigate.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Where are you based out of, Caroline?
I'm in South Jersey.
Oh, okay. You're right here. You're close to me.
Where are you from?
I'm in Exchange Place, not Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's 1 o'clock. I'm going to give us another minute because it looks like we had a connection error with people trying to join. So I'm going to give us another minute before we get started here. Hi, guys. Welcome. All right. Just make sure everybody is able to get logged in here. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay, that should fix everybody.
Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna hit record and we can get started.
Okay.
All right, so happy Friday, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. It could be a combination of both. My name is Meg. I'm part of the marketing team here at PowerToFly, and I am super excited to be your host for today. Really excited to dig in on today's subject with Namisha. But before we get started there, I just want to real quick go over some housekeeping items for today's chat. If you've joined us for any one of our previous virtual events, the next couple, 30 seconds or so are going to feel pretty repetitive, so I apologize. As with all of our virtual events, today is about you. It's about our community, and we absolutely want to make sure that you all feel welcome to participate. So to that end, you are more than welcome to come off mute to ask questions if you'd like. You can turn your cameras on so we can all see your smiling faces, or frowning, depending on how long your quarantine feels like it's been. The one thing that we do say is if you are not actively talking, we try not to talk over each other. So if somebody else is already speaking, try not to interrupt anybody. Lag times are what they are, so we'll just do our best to be polite. But if anybody besides me is talking, please don't interrupt. And if you are not actively talking to or asking a question or commenting to Namisha about something, please make sure that you mute yourself. It doesn't mean you can't come off mute later to ask questions. It just helps prevent sound and audio contamination, and make sure that everybody can hear and hear everything clearly that's going on. To that end, if you don't have great audio, or maybe you've got, like I do, background noise of thunderstorms or pets or whatever, you are more than welcome to still participate. You can write any comments or questions that you have into the Zoom chat. If you want if you have a question that you want to ask, but you would like it raised anonymously for any reason, you are more than welcome to put it in the chat, and just make sure instead of sending it to everyone, you select my name from the dropdown. It'll be there under Meg Alexander. If you send it to me privately, then I will make sure your question is raised and keep you anonymous for whatever reason you would have for wanting to do so. Today is being recorded, so whether you are able to spend 5 minutes with us or the whole hour, anybody that registered for today's event will get a rewatch, or get an email with a rewatch link in it once the recording of today's session is live on our website. So you'll all be getting that regardless. You can share it with whoever you'd like. It's free to watch the recording on our website. It'll be hosted there indefinitely. And so you're free to do that. If you are a little more impatient or want to send this out sooner, we are actually streaming live to YouTube right now, to our YouTube channel at PowerToFly. So you're more than welcome to share that link with people if you'd like to rewatch something later. It also helps so that way you don't have to feel like you need to take frantic notes about something that Namisha is saying, because I'm sure she's going to drop some amazing gems of wisdom on us. So we've got a couple of slides where we'll introduce our speaker. We'll go over the questions that are going to be asked real briefly, and then we will get going. So thanks for joining us, and let's get started. So I'd like to introduce you all to Namisha. Namisha is the founder of productsbywomen.com, a global diverse community for women in innovation and tech. Namisha is also an advisory board member at Pace University, Leuven School of Business, and she serves as a mentor at Barclays Rise and advises early to mid-stage startups. Namisha holds a master's degree from the University of Leeds in the UK and currently works at a social enterprise building social impact products for good. To unplug, Namisha loves to paint and hike. She even successfully climbed Mount Kilimanjaro 11 months after having her son. So certified badass in the house. Namisha, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Sometimes, when I look at this, I get it's a bit cringeworthy because I don't do this often. I don't introduce myself like this. So thank you so much for this really kind introduction.
Anytime. So if you would, could you tell us a little bit about your company, about what you founded in that community, so that our viewers have more of an understanding of your background?
Sure, absolutely. So, a few months ago, actually not even a year ago, we started off with creating in real life events. And at that point, we were known as New York Women in Product Management, where we used to host a bunch of happy hours and chat and learn events, specifically in the tech industry. Very quickly when COVID hit, actually, we pivoted to a virtual format and started noticing that our base itself grew beyond just being in New York. So in order to kind of reflect the voice of the community, we rebranded to be known as Products by Women. And our community grew from being 50 people to over 5,000 women across the globe. And, really, we host live events and workshops, mentorship programs. We connect women to jobs beyond borders. We have study circles. And in fact, we are hosting an upcoming study circle with PowerToFly, where we're going to have mock interviews. We also have podcasts which covers stories of startup CEOs and founders and spotlights on them and more. So really, we are a community which is specific to tech, and the way we see it is that we are a community by women for women, and we want to be that place where women are empowered and are able to connect with each other based on their skills, based on their preferences, their milestones, so they can advance their career professionally and personally.
Awesome. Thank you for kind of drilling down on that for us. So this is the next slide I have, and it's talking about the study circles. Is this a scheduled event? I apologize for not knowing this.
Yes. So Nicole and I have been working on this really awesome study circle. We launched this a couple of months ago, actually. And the study circle is a place where people can sign up. It's a free event. They come in and they are broken up into different, rooms, and you can actually practice for upcoming interviews. And it's a great way to kind of practice, and it's a safe zone, judgment free, and we're really trying to help each other to prepare, especially during this current environment during COVID. So do check it out. It's on the website. All you need to do is go to productsbywomen.com, or you can also find this information on PowerToFly, and that's how you can sign up for it.
Yeah, I will grab the link actually to that chat now, and I will put that into the Zoom chat so people can check that out as well. So we have here a couple questions. If you've joined us for previous chat and learns, you know that what we do is we take the questions that were pre-submitted when you registered. We condense down to eliminate duplicate questions, redundant questions, that kind of thing, and we've tried to arrange them into a conversational format here that makes most sense for Naimesha to go over. If you would like to take a screen grab of this, you're more than welcome to. There's 2 pages of this, so I'll pause here for another couple seconds in case anybody wants to screen grab it. This will just give you an idea of the questions that we're going to try and get to today. We might not get to all of them, but we will do our best. But that is not to suggest, I'm going to go to the next slide, so feel free to screen grab this if you'd like. That is not to suggest that you should not submit questions. If you have a question that you would like addressed, please feel free to send it in the chat or to come off mute and ask. You can also use the raise your hand feature. I think it's in your participant window under reactions, I want to say. But you can use that if you'd like to ask a question. Like I said, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I love to be interrupted. I get paid to fill the space. So do not hesitate to interrupt me if you would like a question asked. So this is we've gotten our screenshots of both slides. I'm going to go and start us off with our first question here to Naimesha. What made you decide to create the former Women in Products group, now Products by Women? And this question also has 2 parts, where it also follows up asking, did you have an experience that led you to take on creating this group, or were you driven by a different inspiration?
Very interestingly, I actually started creating this group to solve a problem for myself. I was trying to build a network for myself, and as a product manager who had recently pivoted from product marketing, I felt like there was a need for me to kind of connect with other product managers and fill those gaps. And I guess a lot of people who are joining us right now will agree that as someone in tech, there's always a learning curve. So I was trying to do that and also build this kind of a network or a support system for myself. Even though I've been living here in the US for over 10 years now, I'm originally from India, if in case it was a surprise to anyone. I'm not from the US. I was trying to build a network. I was trying to build a support system. I had become a mother. And so that was the premise to what I was trying to do. I really didn't expect for the community to grow into what it is today. I'm really grateful to how it happened, because it's given me a new cause and a reason to go beyond my day job, go beyond being a mother and things like that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's helpful for people to know that there doesn't always have to be like a huge inciting incident. Like sometimes you just feel a push to do something. So thank you for that. All right, so one of the other questions that we actually got a lot was, what have been the biggest challenges you've overcome throughout this journey?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that I am trying to juggle being a mother, and I'm trying to juggle having a full-time job, pursuing my passion, doing all the chores around the house, and doing them all well, you know. And I think that is one of the main challenges is trying to be perfect at everything. And I think the point that I'm trying to put across is that oftentimes we get so caught up in being perfect that we try not to do a lot of things. So I think when I got over the challenge of really being perfect is when I was able to kind of conquer and doing different things at different times and being able to get over that challenge. And of course, being able to balance everything in the best way I can. I stopped having that mom guilt or having that perfection and imposing 80/20 rules and things like that. Yeah, I would say that that was the biggest challenge, just trying to do everything and doing it right really well.
That's a really hard hurdle to get over. I mean, like it's a common repeated phrase at PowerToFly. Don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Because moving quickly on projects, it can be very easy to get bogged down in those details, especially when something's a passion project and you have a certain idea in your head of how you think it should be or how you'd like to do it. So yeah, I think that's really important to call out, is that like, just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it's not a great start. It doesn't mean it's not something to be proud of. But yeah, I think it's a really good thing to remember, especially when it comes to parenting. Like nothing's ever going to be perfect. So it's doing your best and hoping for, kind of hoping for the best along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right. So this next question asked, what does this journey and success mean to you besides empowering the women around you?
For me personally, I think I take this, I really believe that my identity goes beyond, like I said, being that working woman and being that mother. I think one of the most interesting things that happened to me was when I started seeing this community being beyond just being that community, when there were action items coming out of this. People were making friends, people were finding jobs, people were, able to connect and, make that circle itself. And so this is what it was like extremely empowering to me. And I felt like this goes beyond me at this point of time. And of course, I'm doing what I have to do. But then when I saw the community come together, I felt like, as a good product manager and as somebody who has started something, it's my duty as, as a PM, this whole concept of saying that a product manager is the CEO of a product is completely false. I really believe in servant leadership, and that's the format that I followed in this capacity, which is actually listening to the community and trying to make that a possibility by giving them what they think they want, whether it's in the form of infrastructure, the voice of the community, represent who we are as people. And so I think the platform itself is what I was trying to build to empower the community through jobs, through podcasts, through stories, bringing their voices forward, and things like that. Yeah.
No, I think it's so good to hear you say that, because you're right. Like the idea of servant leadership completely dovetails with the idea of empowering those around you. If you've listened to like any of our previous chats, this is something that gets repeated a lot, especially when it comes to leadership discussions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very nice to hear, that it's not just, it's not just a mission statement. It's really something that's heartfelt and very important to you.
Yeah, and I think, absolutely. I feel like I spent the last 1 year just listening to people. Every single event that we have, we make it a point to take down notes. We make it a point to listen to people and actually internalize them and convert them into action items. And I'd say that, definitely seek feedback. If you're trying to scale that idea, you're trying to, build a product or trying to scale like anything, it's very easy to often get caught up in the minor details and take it personally. I do all the time. I remember this one time my husband said something about a small something like some formatting on the website or something, and I got very defensive about my team and what we had built, because I was like, hey, no. And then, I thought about it, this is something which intertwines to having that creator syndrome where you get so protective about what you're building and your community. But I think to build great products and to build great communities or to scale an idea, you have to learn to listen and you have to learn to kind of convert them into actionable items. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. All right. So as we talk about some of these like large scale projects that you're taking on, a lot of the questions had asked about how you prioritize and strategize your life. This person specifically says, I really want to succeed in my career and my personal projects, but I'm having trouble prioritizing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, some of the, frameworks and tools that I really use, and of course I embrace technology and I try to use as much technology as possible. And I try to kind of use, and yeah, I was going to ask you if you can pull up my tool book. I do use, all of these technologies, like whether it's Google or Slack or, Google Calendar, Zoom, Calendly, anything that makes my life a little bit more simpler. I will pay that extra dollar amount to kind of make it simpler. The amount of time you actually spend in going back and forth and scheduling events with people or meetings, your time is better spent in thinking about what you want to do, or you spending that time with your family if or kind of just resting. And I think the way I break down my day is really yeah, it doesn't look really good, but I do sleep very little. Biologically, I'm a person who sleeps little, and I have to work around trying to get that extra sleep by working out a lot more. I do put in a lot of work. I feel like I'm not at that point where I can actually drop things and set boundaries. I hope and wish to get there soon. Oftentimes I am working till 2 in the night. I am working while my son is around, and I try to put my phone down as much as I can. But in the 4 hours, so if I had to break down my day in the life of Naimisha, I sleep for 5 hours, I work for 15 hours because I still do have a day job. And then the other half I spend doing products by women stuff. And then other 4 hours I try to work out, I try to meditate, I try to keep in touch with my friends, cook, clean, laundry, drink coffee, watch movies, basically trying to do everything. And the list is pretty much endless. I'm trying to do the best I can. And I think the rule that you can try to apply is kind of segment your day itself. Apply the 80-20 rule as much as possible, trying to break your day down into trying to see what is the most impactful item for the day, kind of divide it into must-dos, could do's, should do's, and then resegment it. And I do that every day. I have a personal backlog, I have a professional backlog, and I always divide the task by the day and try to complete tasks which are most important and most urgent. And which have the most amount of impact. Yeah.
I think that's really helpful to like kind of see how other people break down their time, because at least for me, I kind of fall in the same boat where I work odd hours and I work long hours. I do not fall in the only needs 5 hours of sleep box. So I'm very jealous of you that you can somehow manage to stay sane on that, because having tried it, I can tell you my quality of work goes down drastically when I don't have enough sleep. So very jealous of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it does add up though. The 5 hours sometimes, like when I'm just like, oh my God, it all just added up, and there is a day I'm doing nothing and I'm sleeping the whole day. So yeah, I guess it works in different ways.
So on a personal note, actually, I saw this slide that you also had about your playbook, and one of the things you talked about is to schedule everything. How does that work when you have a kid? Is it a lot about, as someone who does not have children, is it a lot about trying at your best to stick to the schedule, or is it more about setting up a framework and then continuously shuffling things so that you have an accurate record of what you did and you don't lose track of the things that are yet to do, or is it somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, I try to stick to my calendar as much as possible. Like, I will schedule his play dates. I schedule my workout. I schedule all my meetings. I schedule my break time. I schedule my worry time. I schedule everything. I've learned how to do that, and I've learned how to kind of do that well to some degree. And I think it's just trying to do your best. And like I said, in the first bullet, I'm talking about embracing the chaos. You just need, as women, we usually wear multiple hats. We work, we have children, if you don't have a child, you're trying to get your career off, you're trying to spend time with your friends, you're trying to go out, you're trying to do everything. I remember seeing this emoji late, like I think it was a meme actually, where people are like, I'm trying to do everything and still look happy. That's just how it is. That's just my life. And I think a lot of us are doing the same. And I think the day you kind of embrace the chaos and say, okay, this is what it is, and I'm going to try and do the best around this situation, is when things start kind of working around. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a very good point. If you embrace that chaos, it doesn't mean giving in to the chaos, honestly, but it also means that you don't have to constantly fight to make things look the way you think they're supposed to look, because it's wasted energy, right? It's if you're focused on how things appear and the neatness level of everything getting done, you're going to take away some of that focus and energy that you could have spent on the accomplishing part, which would also help with how things look. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of times, just kind of maintaining that list, the to-do list, and trying to prioritize your most important tasks and action items is very important. And, oftentimes, when you go down this entrepreneurship journey, or in general, just in life, you do get caught up in like, time wastage, or, in some sense, trying to just like, I spend a lot of time doing nothing. I just like lie down and look at the ceiling or do nothing. And that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to kind of get back on track, or probably this is fine. I'm just going to take this time to relax and just be aware of what you're doing in your thoughts. And I think that's a very, very important aspect as well, like taking care of your mind, body, and soul. If you need that break, take that break. That's what I feel. Yeah.
All right. So along this same vein, this person had asked, how do you find that balance between work and life? Is it wrong to prioritize personal wants as well as needs? I know breaks and the need for them are valid, but do you ever feel guilty when you take a rest?
No, not at all. I don't think so. I think it's very, like, personally, if your mind, body, and soul is not at its peaceful state, there's no way you can perform. It's very important to take care of yourself, indulge in self-care, self-love, all of that. And it's only when you are in that state of mind can you actually do your best and deliver um, to your best in all capacities, whether it's work. And me personally, I can work as hard as possible, but if I'm mentally drained out, I cannot move. I just cannot. It's just impossible for me to do anything then. Yeah. Yeah, and to that point, right? Like I said, I think it's always remember that self-care, self-love, gratitude, discipline. I think these are the fundamentals and the most important things to do anything. It's important for you to spend time meditating, or doing that yoga session, or working out, and drinking a lot of water. Remember to do all of those things. Breathe, and also like, love yourself. It's okay. It's okay to want that break. It's okay to watch that movie. It's okay. You need that time. And especially for myself, right, as a mother, as well, like, I think sometimes I'm like, dude, I made a human being. Like, it's okay for me to, I think I deserve this time off. Like, yeah, I mean, as you can see, there's a lot of work that goes into it. That's how, on the right, that's how I look most times when I'm working at home, which is, my fashion sense is deteriorating by the day. I look terrible at home, and that's how the reality looks, where I'm trying to look like I've got it all together, but that's just not that's not the reality at all. Expectation versus reality, like, those perfect Instagram shots, this is not how it is. there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of late hours, a lot of work. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's important to remember that, yeah, your expectation versus your reality, they're very, very infrequently are they going to actually like line up like you thought. But just because something looks different than how you expected it to doesn't mean, like, different is not less. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different.
Yeah.
So it helps me at least to remember that. But one of the kind of like silver lining a little bit things that for me has come out of COVID and all of this is that you are getting more of a window into how other people work than ever before. Because I mean, you can work next to somebody like in the same cubicle or in the same office, and you do get a sort of an idea of how they work. But seeing people work out of their homes, I like to say it hasn't made us less professional. It's made us more real and more realistic about the fact that it doesn't have to look perfect to be good. It doesn't have to look perfect to function and accomplish the job. And I completely feel you. My fashion sense has deteriorated too. These are my fancy t-shirts. So like,
yeah, absolutely. And I think just before we started this chat, I was like, I haven't washed or styled my hair in like almost a week, or like, I don't know, like 3 days, I think. Like it's fine. It's all okay. I think all of us need to know that, we're trying our best. We're all trying to do what we can within our capacities, and it's all good as long as you're healthy, you're safe, and yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So kind of continuing along in that same vein, this person had asked, how do you manage anxiety with a busy workload?
One thing that is very therapeutic for me is that I actually write down everything, especially when I'm anxious. And I feel anxious very often, to be honest. I try to take that break and meditate and work out. That really helps me. I also write down and prioritize things. And then when I write things down, I realize it's actually not too bad because I know how I can sort those things. And I try to break things down into manageable chunks, like if there's a big problem that I need to resolve, then I say, okay, how do I get from point A to point B? And what are the steps that I need to take to get there? And when I started writing things down, I feel like I start feeling better about managing my anxiety. Yeah, and I think, it's very important, especially during this time, if you feel like you are really feeling anxious, talk to people, build a network around yourself, build a support structure, talk to friends and family, talk to women at PowerToFly, talk to women at New York Women Product Management, or, now Products by Women. And I think this is the kind of community and support structure we're trying to build for ourselves. And it's very important to lean on each other during this time. And I think, I do that a lot. I call my friends, I call my childhood friends. I'm like, I feel terrible today and I don't know what to do about this. Can you help me sort my emotions out, or help me prioritize this? Or if it's anything work related, I will talk to a peer mentor and I'll say, can you help me with this? Or, can you review this? Or can you tell me if I'm thinking the right way? Yeah. So I think it's important to do all of the above.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said is really, at least it resonates with me, because for me, my anxiety comes from the worry that I'll forget something. So writing down things helps.
Yeah.
Or feeling that like overwhelmed, like there's too much to be done. At which point I do the same like list making kind of thing, but I break it down into those manageable chunks like you talked about. Like I start with things that absolutely have to get done, based on deadline, things that I would like to get done, whatever. But it helps to kind of not just break it in, like, give myself a list, but like visually break it into chunks that, I go through so many legal pads. It's insane, especially in this digital age when we really shouldn't have any paper anyway. But it's that tactile, it helps. Yeah.
It really does. And by writing down, I mean, even just using your phone. I mean, most of my lists are on my phone in the notepad, but like, that's what I mean. Like, whether it's like in paper book format or it's on your phone, anything, just put it down in a visual format so you can see what you have ahead of you, and then you'll feel better. Yeah.
So you touched on this briefly in your answer, but the next question deals with asking like how important it is to have a mentor. And I feel like we get this a lot from our community, but you said that this is, some place that you go to bounce ideas off of. Yeah. Do you think that it's more important because of your, of your your venture into products by women, or do you feel like it's more important because of your full-time job, or some combination therein?
No, I mean, I personally think that everyone needs to think about seeking a mentor in some capacity, whether it's peer mentorship or whether it's like just leadership mentorship, or, sometimes I often think about, I could probably be doing things much better now if I had, had a mentor in my early days about a few things. And I think this is something that, I often talk to young women who are just getting into the workforce about, like, go out there, talk to people. It probably does not have to be a formal agreement between saying, hey, can you be my mentor? But it's just, mentorship comes from different people. It can come from friends, it can come from your colleagues, it can come from someone who's a leader. It's very important, you can't be working in like a silo or just in assumptions in your head. You really need to talk to people, and you need to try to kind of get different perspectives and then take all of those perspectives and kind of synthesize them to find an answer for yourself. So in my opinion, it's very important, and it's important to be done often and early. And then of course you need to go, decide by yourself like what is the right path. Yeah.
Absolutely. So to that end, then do you have like you talked about, like, it's okay to go to different people for different varieties of advice or different, problems that you might have. Do you have then multiple people that you consult for various things? Is it, like you said, is it more of a, like, it doesn't have to be a formalized relationship, but how do you identify those people in your life that would be, good people to ask about these kinds of things?
Oh, absolutely. Like, with products by women, I mean, I have mentors who help me and guide me with the direction of the company that I'm going with for the organization. Personally, anything mommy related, I have mommy mentors or advisors who tell me what I should be doing with my kid, or what kind of education. Like, there are people who are ahead of me who have more knowledge and more experience with doing things. And personally, I do not create those artificial boundaries of like having a mentor mentee relationship. I feel like mentorship and good advice can come from anywhere. I do have formal advisors and mentors on the work front, yes, but like on a personal front, I do not create those barriers. Uh, yeah, I'm always seeking advice and always seeking for feedback and trying to be self-aware of my gaps and improve on those. So I think, I highly urge that it's important to start thinking about that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so you talked a little bit about that kind of formal boundaries. This person had asked, how do you set boundaries effectively and assert yourself as you advance in your career? I feel like this is something that a lot of people struggle with. Certainly, I feel like more women struggle with it than men necessarily. But how do you tackle this?
Yeah, I think I touched upon this a little bit earlier. I wish I was able to create those boundaries more effectively, but I feel like with products by women, I'm not there yet. I do not, I want to kind of create those boundaries in an effective manner, being able to say, okay, I'm not going to be working after 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., but I'm in that growth phase, or a place where I still have to work really hard and still have to answer emails or still have to check things and be on top of everything. With the On a work front, I have created boundaries because I have been there and I know my domain and I know how to do that, and that's exactly how I've been able to scale what I'm doing off work. Actually having that 9 to 6 or 9 to 7 p.m. or however long you work, and saying that, okay, I'm not going to be available after these hours, actually gives you the opportunity to do, scale your side hustles or have, pursue those ideas that you have. So yeah, I think it's very important to think about what setting boundaries mean to you and why. So for me personally, with my side hustle, I don't really have any boundaries because that's my baby. And with work, I do my work very, very diligently. I have those boundaries with work. When I'm working, I don't do anything else. I'm completing my work and finishing that and getting it out of the way. And yeah, and I think that's important, and to enable these boundaries, you obviously need to make sure that you have really good project management skills, both personally and professionally in place. Use technology, embrace self-care and everything else that we spoke about as needed. Yeah.
And I think that's an important call out too, that, setting boundaries doesn't necessarily mean you have the exact same set of boundaries and the exact same limitations or, like hard stops that you place on yourself for every aspect of your life. Because like you said, with Products by Women, it's your baby and the buck stops with you. So there's a certain amount of kind of above and beyond that you know that during this season of, this is what's built, you're in the building time of this or whatever, that this is something that's required for you to get to the level of success that you want or to achieve the goals that you want to achieve with that, like with Products by Women. But I feel like it's also very important to realize that like you can set where possible, you can set those harder line boundaries on things like whatever your main, full-time job is. There's nothing wrong with being committed to it, but you shouldn't let that, cause detriment to, like, say, your personal life or even really your side hustle. Like, setting those boundaries are important, but just because you set them for, just because you're more willing to spend the long hours in a certain area doesn't mean you then have to paint everything with the same brush.
Yeah, and you spoke about personal life. I mean, I do spend like time with my son and my family, and that's a non-negotiable for me every single day. And during that time, there's absolutely nothing that happens. So yeah, I think, you need to kind of think about those different, verticals and different pillars of your life, and kind of think about, okay, personal life, professional life, side hustle, and kind of segment your life and set boundaries, and things can be done. I mean, if you want to do it, you have to find a way to do it, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's also kind of allowing that room for adjustment.
Yeah.
I mean, like we talked about pre-COVID, certain things were really important to us and always got done. And then, the world changed. Things in your life changed. And it doesn't take a pandemic for you to maybe need to reassess your priorities or reassess like how much time you're spending in certain areas or whatever. It can be just as simple as, well, it's a new day, so I need to reassess what's important to me today.
Yeah.
As long as you are leaving that room for flexibility in your life and are being true to yourself about where you really need to spend the time or where you feel you need to spend the time. It's important to respect that about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so that kind of leads into our next question here. This person had asked, how important is sleep and how do you protect it? And to me, I read this not only as being kind of indicative or touching on like the subject of sleep and rest and whatever, but I also saw it as kind of a question about how we protect that self-care or that personal time or that downtime that we need. Especially in America, this is not a thing people prioritize. It's, we're in that culture of feeling like you have to constantly be working or constantly be productive. So even if sleep is not something that you are personally protecting that much, how important do you think that downtime and that recharge stuff is, and how do you protect those spaces in your life?
I think it's extremely important. It all is intertwined with each other. In terms of like setting boundaries, self-care. What we spoke about setting boundaries is that, if you need that time off, you need that time off. Like, I mean, I don't know if actually setting your phone like, on like airplane mode or do not disturb mode, and just setting things aside, picking up a book. All of these things are tools and channels through which you can actually protect your sleep and let people know, or just creating those, messages saying that I'm not going to be available, or I'm going to be checking my emails intermittently. And I think, this kind of trickles into the question about the kind of environment and the workplace that you also are associated with and work at, which is, um, it's important for you to set the tone as well within your company, that, you are not going to be available at that time. And it's as equal, the company is definitely, and your peers have to respect that, but you have to start with respecting your time more. And if you start creating those boundaries and letting your peers know that you're not going to be available, you're not going to be responding to things, they're going to see that, and they're not going to probably message you or bother you during that time. So I think it's very important for you to respect your time and your downtime, your self-care time, your sleep time, and things like that. And that's when people are going to start respecting and allowing you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it can be kind of scary to start laying down those boundaries. Even new boundaries are always scary, even especially if you've been in a certain position or a certain, like, around people for a certain amount of time. If you are setting up a new boundary that maybe you haven't before,
Yeah.
it can be kind of scary because it feels, maybe out of character for you, or a change in, messaging or something. But I mean, I went through the same thing within the last year. I got back into therapy, haven't been in like 15 years. And I set aside time, and I like put a calendar hold in my day, and I throw up a Slack away message so that everybody knows, like, hey, this is non-negotiable. I'm not here. I'll be back at this time, and I can deal with it then. And I didn't expect blowback from it at all. But I definitely didn't expect, and I didn't get any blowback either, just to clarify. But I definitely didn't expect some of the positive feedback I got from people saying that, they admired that I was setting that time aside, which is, it's nice, but, kind of self-serving. But then people who said that, that it helped them to prioritize their mental health or prioritize their need for a break. So keep in mind, like, these things that you do don't just affect you, and they can have positive implications for your life, but they might also have positive implications for the people around you. So it's very important to remember.
Yeah, and I think, by doing this for yourself, you're actually serving others in a way, because you're creating a good culture for the organization as well. That you need to kind of prioritize yourself as a person, because you are, the tool, you are the product. So if you don't feel good, if you don't feel like you're 100%, there's no way you're going to perform. So if you need that time, take that time. Yeah.
It's a really good point. It super reminds me of, there was an episode of Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, and this was years ago. It had to be 3, maybe 4 years ago, when it was still like a web series only. And she talked about how you have all this pressure as a mother, especially a mom with like multiple children and a husband and a family and all this, like a house to support and all that kind of stuff. You feel a lot of pressure to keep going for everybody else, because everybody depends on you, because you're kind of the linchpin that holds everything together. Yeah. But what she talked about and what she really stressed was that you have to take care of yourself, because you can't take care of other people if you're, if you can't, what is it? You can't get water from an empty well, basically. So if you're not up at maintaining yourself and making sure that, you're happy and you're fulfilled, it's really hard to help other people, either meet their goals or help the people around you to keep up with their jobs. Like, it's very important to take care of yourself, because taking care of other people might make you feel good, but if you're not fueling that engine, eventually it's gonna quit on you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even like when you get on an aeroplane, they ask you to put on your mask first. So please, like, help yourself first before you start helping anybody else. So you need the time you need off, you take it, and then you can do anything else that you have to do later. Yeah.
So we had a question that got asked anonymously in the chat. This person wants to know, how do you connect or maintain connections with people when you're going through difficult situations in your personal life? I feel like those are times when we especially need support, but how do you open up about those types of things?
I just reach out to them. It's as simple as that. Like, I mean, I in that way, I feel like when I need to reach out to people, I have no inhibitions. I'll reach out. I'll find a way to reach out to them. Whether it's social media, whether it's email, you feel like you're going through something, so oftentimes you lose, like, for instance, right, like, it's been 10 years since I moved from my home country, and you lose contact with your best friends, or you don't have time to connect with people because you're in different phases of your life and things like that. But when that happens and you feel like you just need to pick up the phone, or you feel like your friend has been particularly quiet in a long time and you feel like something's just not okay, or you are not feeling okay, just pick up the phone and call the person. Like, I think that's it's as simple as that. You just need to make that first move.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to remember that like that whatever that outreach move on your part is, it can look really different depending on who you're reaching out to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had this talk with a lot of people in the last month or so, but I feel like not only are there very large things going on with the world right now, but it also feels like there's way more than average, like small things that are large in my universe or in my personal world, you know, like and it feels like a lot of people are going through the same thing where they feel like, yes, there's large scale things happening in the world and it's a lot of upheaval, but also they're all going through either unprecedented situations or, you know, situations that now suddenly feel like they have higher stakes or whatever. And so that outreach, I feel like, can look very different, right? Like how you would reach out to get help from a coworker or a supervisor is very different than how you would reach out to get support from a friend.
Yeah.
And I think, please correct me if you feel differently. I feel like it really depends on how vulnerable you want to be with that specific person. Because you may or may not feel like the trust is there. You might honestly just not feel comfortable for whatever reason personally at that moment, even, you know, just sharing with somebody. But
yeah, and you know, it's interesting that, you know, we're all in like lockdowns and things are starting to open up now, but it's so ironic that we had to go into lockdowns to actually connect with people more. This is the perfect time to actually reach out to that person or connect, or send that email, or, you know, send that message to a person you haven't connected in a really long time, to actually build that connection or the relationship all over again. And again, of course, you know, it could be in different ways and different formats, but I think this is the time for us to start building those in person, those relationships again. Because sometimes you get, you know, when everything was not back in normal, we were so caught up, and we were so caught up in our lives that you forgot calling up your, you know, your best friend, or you forgot calling up, you know, your parents, or, you know, all of that. This is the time to pick up the phone and start doing all of that again, or calling that colleague who's not been talking too much, or picking up the phone and calling that friend you haven't spoken to in like the last 10 years or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also important to think about kind of what you said earlier about like setting those boundaries, is like setting the expectations. So if you are going through a rough time, you need to reach out to a friend, but like this happens to me a lot because I have kind of an unstructured day, depending on the day, where I'll want to reach out to somebody, but it'll be like 2 minutes before I'm supposed to go into a meeting.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is, to keep from forgetting, I'll either make a note to text the person or call them later or whatever, or I'll just send a quick text to whoever, like the friend I was going to reach out to, and just say, hey, I need to talk to you. If you have time in the next couple days, it'll take like probably 15 to 30 minutes. I'm going into a meeting now, but here's when I'd have time to respond. Or even with like my boss, I've like reached out to her in the last couple of weeks. We had an unfortunate death in the family. And so I reached out to my boss and I was like, hey, I can't really go into the details right now. I'm not trying to be like, you know, mysterious or whatever, but like I'm going through some stuff. In a couple of days, when I've got my head on straight, can we like meet up and think about my responsibilities and see where maybe we can shift some things around?
Yeah.
You know, just calling it out, being kind of blunt and calling things what they are. I don't mean to come off weird and cagey. I just don't really want to go into it at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
All right. So thank you to the anonymous person that raised that question. That was amazing. I hope everybody else got as much out of that as I did, because hearing how other people handle it is always valuable. Okay, so for this next person's question, they were asked, how can we manage a full-time job and going back to grad school at the same time? So I feel like this kind of touches on areas that you've covered in what we've talked about previously, but you know, it can be really hard to prioritize something that is a personal need, but also could advance your career professionally, right?
Yeah. You know, I'm not the only person who's doing this. I'm sure a bunch of people who are on this call are also trying to do you know, having a full-time job, trying to study on the side, or doing side hustles. I know a lot of women who do that. It's a lot of work. There's no way I'll say that it's easy. most of your weekends are spent working or studying, and you cannot go out as often. I mean, anyways, we cannot do that anymore, so that's okay. So but I think know the commitment you are getting into, right? Like, I think if you're signing yourself up to study, know that you have to dedicate that time and effort. And if you're ready to do that, then you really need to go all in. It doesn't matter if it's like entrepreneurial venture, or it's, or studying something on the side, but make sure that you commit to it and commit to it fully. I think that's the most important. For me personally, I do not take on anything that I feel like I don't have the bandwidth for. I have this very, my strange policy. Like, I'll do something, I'll do it well, but or I will not do it. But like lately, it's changing. I'm trying to go away from that and saying, okay, you know what, I'll try it, and I'll see how I can get it off the ground. But I only take things if I feel like I have the capacity, like if I have the time. So kind of thinking about those two things, which is, one is you have the time and you have the commitment and the will and determination to do that. And I think if you have all of that in place, most likely you'll be successful in what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and actually it sounds like, or it kind of reminds me of going back to what you had said about setting those boundaries, right? And about reassessing those. So you might have a new set of boundaries that you need to stick to while you're in process doing this. And it might be a different kind of set of priorities than what you had previously, or you might have to put more emphasis on your study time and a little less on sleep or hobbies, or kind of the more like want to do things. But yeah, like setting those boundaries, setting those expectations, and then being clear with people about it, because there's always going to be somebody. Like, at least now, it's not so much like, oh, hey, come out for a drink with us. It's more like, well, we're going to watch this movie, or join us for a Zoom call, or we're going to play a video game online or something. But having that ready response of, oh, I'd love to, but I need to focus on this. Can we set aside time in a couple weeks? Or, I won't have time for like about the next month because I've got a final coming up. But after that, like, yes, let's put something on the books so that way we have this built in later.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's imperative, and it's very, very important to do as well. Yeah.
All right. So I see we've got about 6 minutes left. So we're going to try and finish off. I think we only have 2 questions, so we might be able to get to all the questions today, which would be awesome. So this person wants to know, what are some daily habits or routines I can do to improve my imposter syndrome? And I'm always interested to see what people's response to this question is, because they vary widely, but there do seem to be common themes that run through a lot of people's responses.
This is a very difficult question, to be honest. I wake up every single day feeling, I don't know, this very weird feeling of having to deal with imposter syndrome. So it's interesting. I think, like for me, I'll go back to a story, right? Let me tell you that, after I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, first of all, for those of you who live in New Jersey, New York area, you'll know that I trained on Bear Mountain. So if you know what Bear Mountain is, it's actually quite a tiny little mountain / hill, which is nowhere close to Mount Kilimanjaro. So I was like, okay, you know what? This is going to be okay. Not knowing the magnitude of what I was signing up for, I said, I'm going to put my son on my back and try to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm going to sign up for it, not knowing that it is close to, say, around 6,000 meters above sea level. And I practiced for 3 months with my son on my back, and I landed up. And I still remember the night before we were actually doing the final climb. I looked up and I started crying, and I was like, there's no way I can do this. And then I did it. I got on top and I cried my eyes out. And then I came back down, and somebody asked me, how was it? And I said, so simple. It's really simple. Anyone can do this. And, I really want to tie this back to the feeling that, women often try to, tell themselves that what they did was nothing. It was so simple. And and then whenever I get that feeling, I'm like, no, it's actually quite difficult, especially 11 months after a baby. It's difficult. So every time you kind of discount yourself, Every time you try to tell yourself, oh, anyone, anyone can do that, but be aware that what you did was actually quite an achievement, and you have to respect yourself for what you've done. And, if you don't do that, no one in the world is going to do that for you. You are your own advocate, like you have to respect yourself, you have to trust yourself, you have to be your biggest cheerleader, and always know that, uh, be aware of your feelings and learn to separate the way you feel with the facts. And I think that's the only way you can kind of overcome imposter syndrome, for one. And I don't know if I have any habits. Like, I mean, I try to have those affirmations in place, but I'm not very, I don't have any routines like that. But every time I can tell myself that I have self-doubt, I'm like, no, I can do it. I can try my best to do it. If I fail, I fail. What's the worst that's going to happen? You know?
Yeah, and I think that's really important to think about is like you said, anyone can do a lot of things. Not everyone does. And so it's very important to, not discredit or discount what you've achieved just because you managed to do it. But to really like it for me, it helps to kind of take a look at my accomplishments or, even just my skills as though I were talking about a friend. Because like there's crap I say to myself that I would never say to a friend because it's horrible and it's mean and it might be true, but it's still mean. Yeah. So like if you look at it from that aspect of like you're bragging about your friend or telling somebody how great your friend is, it makes it a lot easier to take that pride in those accomplishments. It makes it a lot easier to not feel boastful or like you're bragging or like any of those things that honestly, if you look at them, are not bad characteristics. They're not bad things to do. We just get socialized to think that they are. So that's super helpful. And I think it's a good thing to call out that like, you don't have to have like a daily habit or routine. It can honestly be as simple as like doing something that makes you feel good. Yeah. I'll come out and share with the group. One of my things that like makes me feel good and helps like, boost my self-confidence. It doesn't necessarily get rid of the imposter syndrome, but like it helps putting on eyebrows every day. No lie. Like filling in my eyebrows in the morning makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I look more like a person, like I'm doing, like I have my life together, whatever. And it's the dumbest thing and nobody notices it but me, but like, it's a small thing. It makes me feel better, which helps the imposter syndrome not gain that upper ground. It helps it not gain that footing that allows it to undercut the rest of your achievements.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I think this is such a important topic to talk about. And, I think anybody who feels this way should know that you deserve what you have. And, you women in general often feel like, I don't deserve this recognition. I don't deserve this. I don't know why I'm getting such good things. You deserve it because you have worked for it. It's okay, And there's a thin line between being boastful and being, honest to yourself that you've put in the work. You've worked hard for this, so you deserve it. It's okay to feel that way,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the immortal words of Yogi Berra. It's not bragging if it's fact. It's important to be, sure, go ahead and be honest with yourself. Be real about like what you've accomplished. But the flip side of that is to be honest about what you've accomplished. Don't minimize it. Don't build it up to be more than it was, but absolutely don't minimize your accomplishments, especially those things that, it might have seemed easy to climb that mountain by the time you were done, but think of all the training hours you put in. Think of all the times that like the time that you spent planning for it and plotting and worrying and figuring out how to train and what to bring and whatever. All of that goes into that accomplishment, and that's huge. Because like you said, anyone can do it, but not everyone will.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we are at time. I do want to say a huge thank you to Namisha for joining us today. You've loaned your wonderful expertise to our community, and for that we are very grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Is there anything that you'd like to leave our community with?
Well, no, thank you all for coming. And, please do visit productsbywomen.com and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or anywhere else, where you can find me. yeah, and I hope this event was useful, and hope to see you guys around soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to say a big thank you to all of our community members who joined us today. Thank you to everyone who submitted wonderful questions beforehand, as well as the people that submitted anonymous questions during today's chat. Just as a quick reminder, everybody will be getting a rewatch link in an email to view this recording again. You can expect that in probably about 1 to 2 days. So I would say like Tuesday of next week, probably. I've put the links back into the chat again for where you can connect with Nymisha or sign up for that study circle for mock interviews that we'll be doing together. And I've also put a link into the chat where you can come up, check out our upcoming events in addition to the study circle, so you can see what else we have planned. So that's it for me for today. And I think the next time I'll see you guys is next week. So please feel free to come back again. We hope you'll join us. And thanks for spending the afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you.